Hey, love. Before we dive in, if this podcast lights you up, hit follow and leave a quick review on Apple or Spotify. It helps the ripple reach more hearts. Plus, it makes the podcast gods happy. All right, let's turn on that heart light. Welcome to the Heartlight Sessions, a podcast about light working your way through dark times. I'm Janae Halstead. I'm a singer-songwriter, holistic vocal coach, intuitive guide, and plant medicine facilitator. I'm also a survivor of childhood abuse, autoimmune issues, and my 30s. I'm on a lifelong healing journey, and along the way, I want to share the ideas and teachings that rock my world. Every week on Heartlight Sessions, I call on artists, healers, and thinkers to explore what's helped them live and thrive from a heart-centered place. Because the heart, it's where the best things happen. If you've ever wondered how to unlock your biggest breakthroughs or how to come back from that stuff that tried to kill you, you know the stuff I'm talking about, the stuff that's supposed to make you stronger. Or if you've ever wondered how to just do you straight from the heart, you're in the right place. So join me, won't you? Let's turn on that heart light. Turning on my heart light. 1,000 volts of sunshine. We are live. I have Tiffany Tate with me. We've already had I think we could have talked for an hour before
I know.
hit record.
I was like, should we just hit record now?
I know. It was so yummy and juicy. And so I have known Tiffany for years. We've never really had a face-to-face conversation, but we go way back in just circles, spiritual circles. So you have Iona Vision or Iona Creative Studio, which is your platform, and your branding as prayer and design as devotion is it's just such a beautiful platform. And I wanted to dive in. So you've done branding for some of my favorite mystics and spiritual teachers. And so you're guiding mystics and healers on building altars, not empires.
Yeah. So it's funny because when I actually went to traditional art school and did not go to graphic design school or marketing school or anything like that, but I saw people that, I had experienced them and their skills in person, and then you see kind of how they share themselves online, and you're like, you are just doing yourself a huge disservice. We have got to, people need to know about you. They need to feel you online.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, I'm an artist, so I believe in the power of images, and started my business really focusing on that. But, what I really have realized recently, just on my own spiritual journey and connecting more deeply to God and creativity, which is kind of the same thing. And realizing that we all have this capacity is that, so many people out there, it's not that they need necessarily graphic design help or help building a website. They just need to get started. They need to recognize that not only do they have gifts, maybe they know them, maybe they need to be awakened or remembered, but they should be sharing them. And this is in fact, if you're looking for just how to live a happy, good life 101, it's being creative.
Yeah.
And, if you're doing it right, then that kind of naturally just opens up into a business, because you literally can't do anything else. So
I just got chills.
yeah, so I kind of have been, I'm obviously still doing graphic design for people, but my big focus in the past 3 months is really just kind of this initiatory energy for people. And that's become really important because we all have the ability to connect to our intuition, to receive messages from God, and to kind of build like a beautiful, holy life. And creativity is just the natural next outpouring
Mm,
of that.
mm,
And, like you're so full that like the
mm.
only thing left to do is like tell others.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I've kind of been trying to create more experiences and offerings that appeal to someone that kind of knows that there's something greater, and that also you can do it differently. That it doesn't mean like this whole like boss babe hustle culture
Yeah,
is just like so
yes.
not my
It's
thing.
so, well, it's over. I mean, it's part of, late stage capitalism or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. It's
Yeah.
just like grinding your bones into the ground for capitalism is just not like, the Sophia, whatever her name, it's not going to work in this new world and that we're moving into. And
Yeah.
there's like a million, as you're speaking, there's like a million threads that now I want to grab and go down, which I've seen you talk about a lot of this on Instagram. So I'm like, which thread do I want to pull first? But can you talk about your own backstory, how you got to Iona Creative Studio, how you sort of married your deep spiritual life and your love of nature
Mhm.
into branding, and then maybe we can like unfold that from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I went to traditional art school. I have an MFA, and I joke that um, being in art school is like 2 years of deep personal therapy.
Yeah.
It's like you alone in a room with some materials trying to like
Mm-hmm.
tell the world how you feel. And it's funny because it's kind of like taboo to talk about God in art
Mm.
school.
It's
Like,
taboo to talk about God, period.
and I didn't
Mm.
even realize until much later that that's what I was trying to do,
Mm.
is to create an experience for someone that would kind of, I was mostly interested in getting people to realize how their reality was constructed, and
Mm.
therefore that you have the ability to make it whatever you want it to be.
Mm.
Um, and so, when I graduated, I I did some traveling, and then, ultimately ran out of money and like couldn't camp out of my car anymore. So I had to get a job. And I got a job actually at a gallery on the Upper East Side of Manhattan and was
Mm.
working there. And that's actually when I met Guru Jagat. I had been working there for a year, and they were just opening Rama, New York on the Upper
Mm.
East Side. And they were not looking for a graphic designer, but I I like sent a cold email to Joanna
Nice.
Pitt and was like, "Hey, um, I want to work for you. I think I think we could do this." And I like just I pitched myself, and she was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
we'll come to this workshop." And so and I was asked like, "Well, you're an artist. Do you think you could do this? For marketing? Like, would you be okay for that or with that?" And I was
Yeah.
like, I think we should try it.
Yeah.
Um, which is not exactly like a phrase that would sell
Yeah.
yourself. Like,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
try. Like, yeah, pay
Yeah.
me. Let's
But
try.
that was kind of the ethos of Rama in a lot of ways. It's like try it, fuck around and find out, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And so, and I realized too that everything that I was trying to do that I felt like I couldn't do in the art world, I could do then because it was like, for lack of a better term, the spiritual world. Like,
Yes.
right? Like I had a
Yeah.
goal. Like I wanted to shift the energy on the planet. I wanted
Mm.
to bring technologies to certain people. I had to
Mm.
convey the value and show them what the experience is like through imagery.
Mm.
And I was very fortunate in that, like, a lot of graphic designers don't necessarily deeply believe in the mission of the
Yes.
company. And
Yes.
I don't think I would have gotten into graphic design had I not. And
Mm.
so I worked for, for Rama for 3 years, and then, 2020 happened, and I got taken down to halftime, like most of
Mm-hmm.
the staff did at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had always wanted to start my own studio, like the whole Rama culture was very like business entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was like, I just like, I had this vision. I wanted to help more people, and I was meeting all of these healers and mystics
Yeah.
through that community. And I was like, gosh, like they need help. They need
Mm-hmm.
help, like not to sound like I'm full of myself, but I really
No,
felt that way. I
it's
was like,
so
we have got to
true.
like do something for you. And so I knew that if there was ever a time to quit and start my own thing, that was the time. And so I put in my notice, and it was a very pleasant like farewell. And I just started with no clients. Like I had like, usually people are like
Mm-hmm.
working in the background of
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
full-time job and then they start. I had
Mm-hmm.
like no, but I knew that I could do it.
Yeah.
And at the time so after I lived in New York, um, I had moved to Philly and then gotten
Mm.
sick of the city. And by the time I quit ramen started Iona, I was living in the Pocono Mountains in
Mm.
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And there was, I could walk to I could be at a waterfall in 45 minutes from my front door
Mm.
and without having to get in the car. So I just like spent a lot of time in the woods, and I felt so alive and so connected to everything. And that was really kind of like those years there. And when I first opened my studio, even though you weren't really seeing this like in what I was making at the time, like
Mm-hmm.
it really kind of laid the foundation for what I'm doing now, because I was really focused on there just how we could cultivate our own energy field. And for me,
Mm.
it was very easy to see and feel that alone in the woods,
Mm.
like interacting with things. And that's when I met Karen Orr when I lived out there.
Mm.
And so I felt like this deep, deep longing. Like everybody goes through this, right? Like you have some kind of profound spiritual or mystical experience.
Yes.
You can't really put it into words. And, it shifts everything
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said earlier, like the only place you can go from there is trying to share that with others somehow, and
Yeah.
it's kind of aligning your outer expression with your inner call, which is really what branding is.
Mm.
That's all that branding is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a revelation of your energy field.
Yeah.
It's an alignment of your outer expression with your inner call. And I really feel like, of course, branding manifests in the physical, like in the form of fonts and in a website and etc. But, it also has an etheric dimension and a
Mm.
spiritual dimension.
Mm.
And I'm really interested, not in making business strategists or marketing strategists, but seers.
Yes.
Seership is the strategy.
Mm.
And when you're experiencing an alignment, with something holy, everything you do from that point of alignment is just a response to your assignment,
Mm.
and it makes all of the decisions, if you're in true alignment, all of these business, marketing, branding decisions that were maybe like really overwhelming or intimidating
Mm-hmm.
or full of
Mm-hmm.
doubt, they all of a sudden become clear because you have a singular goal and you're locked into the goal. And so everything should be, will get filtered through like, okay, well, it's not about like, do I like these images? Like
Yeah.
how are they positioned, in the market, in my field? It's about like, how does this make me feel? when I look at it? And is that feeling helping me achieve my goal or share my mission? So that's what I really want people to know, and kind of what my journey has been about, is kind of just like crystallizing what it is that I even feel,
Mm.
which kind of all started, in the woods, because I feel like so many of us are just like, even the word branding kind of makes you be like, "Ugh,"
Yeah,
or
exactly.
like boring, whatever. And but when you start thinking about it in these terms, that it's just an energy field, and it is something that is going to help you transmit your message, your mission, then all of a sudden it becomes clear, energizing, and actually like really exciting
Mm.
because you have some focus and
I
it's
love it.
pulling you, and it like all of the doubt, kind of drops away. And so, yeah, my work has kind of evolved since then in that, like, I want people to know that they can do it differently. And it's not just about like, I see a lot of things about like rest culture.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell how I feel about it, like by my
Mm-hmm.
laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking earlier about how, like, not giving into hustle culture, but what I don't think that is giving into what I would call
Exactly.
toxic rest culture.
Right.
And it's actually quite the opposite, because if you are like stewarding a holy
Mm.
assignment, it is like an an unextinguishable flame. Like, you are
Mm.
being pulled, and you have an energy that you don't know where it
Mm.
comes from. And so your output, not only is it greater because you have more energy and focus, but it can somehow go further because of that focus, than if you were trying to um, kind of fit your mission into more conventional like marketing.
Let's say someone is feeling that call to usher in their mission, and they're just dealing with, so much information coming in and out of their field, and they may have the energy for it, but they're just feeling sort of overwhelmed and confused by that's what I feel like today. People are, it's like information overload, and trying to strip down like bare bones of what truly is yours and what truly feels like a passion and on fire. And I think because of even like comparison and looking at what other people are doing, I think it's easy to go into that noise.
I kind of think of this in like both an additive and a subtractive way. And so feeling your field, I think, first requires you to remove a lot of things that are in it or obstructing it. Um, and, this honestly just looks like things like digital detoxing, food
Yes.
detoxing, friend detoxing.
Yes.
And because I think sometimes we don't realize how much we're carrying around with us, the
Yeah.
opinions of other people. Um, and so I think that, and this has to be done in a way that's sustainable, right? You can't just like go on a retreat, feel
Mm-mm.
great, and then come
Mm-mm.
home and be like back to your
Yeah,
your same
exactly.
old thing. So I think you kind of have to like put yourself, you have to put holy things in your orbit. And
Mm.
so for me, what that looked like is being in nature, because that was for me like the most direct, beautiful manifestation of God's creativity, other than
Mm.
obviously the capacity of the human being.
Mm.
But I it soothed my nervous system. It helped me clear, anxiety or just thoughts that didn't belong with me. And, it just like kind of brought me back to my, I'll say 0 point.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of like remove a lot of stuff
Yeah.
before you can, because I mean, it's very easy to like talk to God,
Yeah.
like we pray, we meditate, we do whatever, but the listening and the receiving, I think, is
Mm,
harder. And so,
exactly.
yeah. And so I think that, when we can kind of clear away a lot of the clutter and be in a space where it's just us, and like the real us. And for me, that's, in nature, then we can start to receive, because a lot of this is so subtle. And I know you know
Mm,
what I'm talking about.
mm-hmm.
And so, and people receive messages differently, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
like I am probably like my most predominant one is like claircognizance. Like I just know,
Yep.
which is funny because people think that, I'm like a visual person. So like
Mm,
I probably mostly see things, and that's actually like the one that I have the least of.
mm. Interesting.
And so I think that when you can remove all of the outer influence and get back to yourself, then you can kind of clear that channel for listening.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, like, and it was always there all along,
Yeah.
but, sometimes we just can't hear it because of all of the other junk that's around. So, you know, I think everybody has to, like the biggest tool I think here is to like realize how you talk to God and how God talks back,
Mm,
because that is going to allow you to come into that holy alignment and come into your true creative self, right? Because we're here as creative beings to like
yes.
contribute something.
Yeah.
And once you are in alignment there, then, everything is going to become a lot more clearer. So then your
Mm,
job is to make sure that like you're listening.
mm.
And so part of that is knowing how you receive messages. And so, um, and a lot of that I think just looks like time by yourself and like observing yourself,
Mm.
to start noticing like when you feel inspired or how ideas come to
Mm.
you, because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of gifts that they're not even really aware of,
For
and
sure.
they feel like it's second nature, which is awesome. Like that's not bad. But if they were to actually realize that, wow, like this is an open channel here, like I could cultivate this and use this to, bring myself, more in alignment with my divine mission, then like we could get so much further, so much faster.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part is, seeing how do you see what's exactly in front of your face, you know?
Yeah, because it's not like it's figuring it out. It's not like a rational 1, 2, 3 step,
No.
which I feel like is why I'm kind of talking in circles around the thing.
Mm.
But I feel like it's the ability to kind of, take that second and third position in your life
Yeah.
and realize how you feel when doing what around, around certain people, certain places, and like having the clarity and the energy to recognize that something is happening, something is shifting, there's a message that I feel differently all of a sudden, whatever it is. And you can't get to that place without like removing, I mean, we live in a world where everybody's trying to poison us. It's
Exactly.
unfortunate,
Exactly.
I'm not going to go there, but
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
and it's not a big deal because we have the tools, to combat that, so like whatever, but that's the reality. And so you have to kind of like do a little decluttering. So
Mm-hmm.
you're even like aware of these things because everybody has these innate abilities,
Yeah.
like we're made to be like in relationship with the divine. So there is an inherent relay that happens. You just have to, you know, um, realize what yours is. And then
Yeah.
so
So for me, a lot of this involves like synchronicity, which I
mhm.
think is a big part of like the relationship with the divine. To me, synchronicity always is like a pathway or a way shower of
Yeah.
like something drops in and it's like, oh, okay, this is a sign I should be following this path because this thing
Mm.
just like, dropped in for me. And I don't know if you have like other things that like that are sort of lights along the pathway.
Yeah. I think that we're also here to experience deep joy.
Mm,
And so
preach. I love that.
I use the presence of fear
Mm-hmm.
as a barometer a lot of the
Mm,
times. And I
mm,
feel like this is really important because I don't see a lot of people talking about discernment of
yeah.
spirits,
Yeah.
especially. And, especially in like, I'll call it new age circles.
Yeah.
There are a lot of energies out there masquerading as energies of light.
Yes.
And so sometimes, and especially in the age of information, and also when like you're on a spiritual path, you know how it is. It's like
Yep.
exhilarating. There's this
Yeah.
hunger, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you just unlocked this thing about yourself and you feel amazing. Like, what else is out there to learn? We all kind of go through this. And I feel like um there are spirits out there that want to kind of, veer you off your path.
For
And,
sure.
you know, one of the tools that I use to kind of make sure that everything that I'm engaging with in any way is like in alignment with my mission is, all very clearly like feel like fear, even if it's
Mm,
really subtle. And if I feel that, I know it's a no-go. Because a
really?
lot of people can like, yeah, you think you can like, if anybody is using like fear in their marketing,
Oh,
to make
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
and like maybe
Yeah.
they're trying to like teach you something good.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe not even like in marketing, like maybe it's not even always that direct, but
Yeah.
in any kind of spiritual practice, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's using that, it's like an inverted thing. It's an
Well,
inverted
that's,
energy.
yeah, like pain point marketing, you know?
Y- Yeah. And also just like I mean I said marketing, but what's bigger and like more important is just like what they're teaching, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
If it's like teaching you to have a certain kind of attitude that's one of fear. That's not,
Mm,
that's coming back to what we were talking about before the call. Like, is this the energy of creation or is this the energy of
mm-hmm.
destruction?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the line is like, it's hard to tell where the line is sometimes.
Yeah.
But I feel like, if I feel like fear coming into my body in any kind of way when I'm either looking at someone's marketing or looking at their message or just like teachings or anything, it's a no-go for me because of what we're here to experience deep and profound joy.
Mm,
And, anything that is fear-based, it's an inversion of that. And
mm.
so I don't engage.
I
So
love
that
that.
is something that like you talked about synchronicities guiding
Mm-hmm.
you. Um, I feel I feel a lot of things like immediately in my body since sensations and I picked fear to talk about because that one is a very obvious one that we feel in our body in different
Mm,
ways. But I think just a lot of people don't even realize like when something doesn't make them feel good.
Yeah.
And I think that
Well,
that is
yeah.
definitely a skill worth cultivating because that's an energy sucker.
Yep.
And, even if it feels productive, like maybe you feel like you should keep up with the news, maybe you feel like you should call that person and check in, because that's like the right thing to do. Things like that, that like you think are coming from like a responsible, caring place, but actually are like, it's like it's like rot
Mm.
in your body,
Mm.
and that like that can it just blows through your energy. So those are kind of the things that I
Mm.
like watch out for. But, the opposite is also true, like feeling positive things in your body, like feeling like you should go somewhere or talk to a certain person. Like my husband is so good at this. He's like, I feel like I should go to the gym right now. And I'm like, are you serious? We have like 40 things we need to get done.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna go for like a quick work. And I'm like, okay. And he goes and he like meets someone and makes
Yeah.
this like insane business connection. And this stuff
Yeah.
happens to him all the
I
time.
feel like this is synchronicity,
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
part of it is like listening to those messages where you're like, I have no idea why, but I'm taking a left instead of a right. And
Yeah.
it's following that and
You
yeah, it's
have,
interesting.
and you have to leave room for it,
You
right?
have
Like this
to,
isn't
yeah, and
the,
that's the detox. That's part of like being able to discern what's going on with yourself. And part of clearing out the field a little bit is just like following those hits,
hmm.
and being like, because those that is where the universe is speaking, and it's like that can change your
Yeah.
life. And it's like I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I have no idea why I'm going here, but I met someone there that like,
Hmm.
it changed the pathway of my life or the direction of my life or it opened something up for me. And so I was wondering if, since we're on this topic, I don't know how you met Karen Orr, but you said I'm assuming you met her in the Berkshires or like,
No. Well, I've never met her in person.
okay,
Through Dana.
yeah.
I was doing a logo for Dana, and she was
Mm,
kind of, explaining the light language to me. And she's like, I think you would really like it. You should, go learn about this sacred geometry. And I was like, that feels like, really aligns like with my business. I'm like all rational mind
yeah.
about it. And so I got on her email list, and when she offered the next intro class, I just took it. So, and yeah.
So I'll just preface. So Karen Orr is my teacher, one of my teachers in this lineage, the Mayan Curandero lineage of from Veracruz, and it's the Mayans were deep lineage of shamans. And so there's most people know like Eastern Mexican lineage, which is a little more of like working with herbs and doing limpias and cleaning and working with more earth-based medicine. And then the Western Mayan Curandero lineage was much more energetic based. And so they brought through this um, energetic I don't want to say modality. They were seers of basically the universal language of geometry and color. And
Mhm.
so Star Fuentes, who is the current holder of this lineage, um, she she studied with she was kind of the first outsider, and they knew that there was going to be someone that was not from Mexico that was going to take the lineage and hold it. And so Star studied in Mexico. I can't remember. I should know. I was supposed to like memorize the whole line of teachers. Just like, but anyways, so she basically studied for years with her teacher, and her teacher would just write the shapes in the ground with a stick and then like
Mhm.
erase them. And Star had to like bring them in. And what it is a caught teaching, basically. So the teacher holds the grids for the geometry in her field or in their field, and then passes it on to the student. And then in night school, what's called night school, is you're like in a classroom while you're sleeping, and you're receiving the downloads for all of this information of light and color and geometry. It's pretty wild. Like, I have not done advanced light language, but Dana
Oh,
has.
you
And
should.
yeah, you've done advanced.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you have the software on your computer?
Uh-huh.
So this is how powerful this medicine really is. Like, Dana had a computer that couldn't even run the software because it's so powerful. And I don't know if I don't know how it works with your computer, but like, it just basically like blew her computer out, or she had to get another computer that just held the software for light language.
Yeah, I haven't experienced that, but there, well, I know that there are two people who developed software, so I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
if we have
Yeah. Yeah.
the
I'm sure you
same
do,
one,
because it's
but
Karen Orr's. Did you get it through Karen Orr?
yeah, but two students
Okay.
made their own versions of the
Okay.
software.
Okay.
So it's both software that's for the lineage, but
Yeah.
so I don't know if we have
Yeah. Yeah.
the same one, but it's really amazing because you can build the grids in one part, but then the part that I really like is you can just watch a single shape spin. So
Mm-hmm.
you pick
Cool.
yeah, so you pick there are like 144 plus shapes, and you pick your shape and then you give it there are like an equal amount of colors to choose from, and then you kind of just watch it. So
Yeah, and
I've
so
yeah.
go ahead. The color and the shape together create a definition. So
Yeah.
shapes, universal, and this is all based off of the five Platonic solids, which is the language of the universe. It's how, the universe is constructed in sacred geometry. And then when
Hmm.
you add color, which is a vibratory field,
Hmm.
you bring those two together and it creates a definition.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's talk about one like a pyramid. So pyramids are they're preservers, the
Hmm.
structure of the pyramid. So you can put like fruit under a pyramid and it will last like 3 times longer in your
Hmm.
kitchen. Like, you can literally build a structure of a pyramid and put
Yeah.
fruit under it. And it's so wild. And the
I
fruit
know.
will last for weeks and weeks and weeks.
And like the central point in the pyramid is like the where the the energy of preservation coming up from that stable square base
Mm-hmm.
meets the energy of cultivation that's coming down from the
Mm-hmm.
point, like right in the middle. And that's actually where the king's chamber is, like in the pyramids of Egypt. It's like right at
Mm.
that center point.
I knew I wanted to talk to you about this because I feel like you have like there's people that have like a deeper understanding of light language. Like, Dana's really, I loved, like, during the pandemic, we came together and started writing grids
Mm.
because we were like, she had posted something about it on the Rama Facebook page, because Guru Jagat was like, share your gifts. And so she wrote
Mm.
about it. And I was like, wait, you studied in this lineage? I studied in this lineage. Like, how? I don't know anyone that knows about this. So we got together and started writing grids. Like, we wrote grids for the women. And
Hmm.
I learned so much about the language because she is a systems person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she had like a very different sort of way of going about understanding the geometry. So everybody brings their own gifts to the language. So it's very cool listening to you talk about it. And I'm wondering if you want to speak a little bit about your own experiences with this language. And
Well, I've kind of taken so I'm also really interested in gematria, which is study
yes.
of numbers,
Yeah.
specifically in like a Hebrew alphabet context. And so what I started doing just as a fun experiment is like, so if you look at a shape, like let's take the pyramid just because we're talking about that. It's made up of points. It is made up of faces, right? And edges. And so I was thinking about this. Um, and, I love thinking about the shapes as like messengers, as little packets of energy. And so the point on any given shape, on any given polygon, it's points are about culmination, right? Things
Mm-hmm.
coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And so faces are about kind of like face energy, like
Mm-hmm.
what the outward presentation is.
Okay.
And then an edge is where the direction changes.
Got it.
So if you think about like culmination, um, or rather, let's look at it this way. If you think about the face, like an identity, an edge where that identity changes direction, and a point where all of this culminates. And then you look at the numbers involved. So, like how many faces, how many edges, how many points or vertices. Um, okay, so you have three numbers, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how many of each of these things, and then I would be looking them up in gematria. So for those that don't know gematria, every number corresponds to a letter. So you can take the number 14, for example, and look up how many words have the value of 14, as in, their individual letter characters, assigned a number. I think in Hebrew there's like 22,
Mm-hmm.
22 letters.
I think so, 22.
So, every word has a number assigned to it because its
Yeah.
letters add up to create a thing. And so I was taking these three numbers from any polygon. Are you still with me? Am I making
Yep.
sense? Okay.
Yep.
I was taking these three numbers and looking up what each of them meant. And I felt like it was revealing another dimension, and also
Mm.
just build, because like when we learn about them, we kind of, as like learn a general kind of interpretation of the energy
Yes.
of the shape and how it moves. And some things are really good at collecting,
Mm-hmm.
and other things are really good at,
Expanding.
penetrating and
Yes.
expanding and moving quickly,
Mm-hmm.
stopping, absorbing, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing to see the correspondences
Wow.
between the numbers and kind of how I had in my mind assigned an energy to a face, an edge, and a vertice,
Mm-hmm.
and like interpret those through the lens of the gematria. And so I just kind of started writing these poems
Wow.
about the shapes. And so, and I was sharing it for a little while on my Instagram. I have a couple that I didn't share on Instagram that I'll send you. But
Okay.
it was kind of like, I don't know, because I would just like read it and things would open up to me.
Wow.
And I feel like that is a result of putting myself in a space where I've gotten to know myself so deeply that I know how I receive messages, and I'm clear enough to not only recognize them but trust and translate them. And this is a gift that everybody can cultivate in
Mm-hmm.
any area of their life. And setting yourself up to have these moments of unstructured, intuitive play and receiving with no
Mm.
goal in
Mm.
mind is so, so important, because I feel like I couldn't tell you how many times that I have had a plan and like what I think is a really good plan. And I like totally abandon it because something else just sort of like, just, floats through my mind. And I just feel this irresistible pull towards it.
Wow.
And it's exciting to me. And I feel like, you asked me earlier, like what other signs, like synchronicities, can people kind of watch out for or employ, like when looking for guidance. And I think that, not being afraid to pivot
Yeah.
and following the joy and the energy, but also in a way, that's in line with your goals, right? Because we don't want to get sidetracked because we're here on a mission.
Yeah.
But like leaving room for all of that is so important and can open you up to something bigger and more beautiful and creative and miraculous than you had initially ever even planned for. But you have to like leave room for God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. This is like, I feel like this is the title of this podcast is Leave Room for God,
leave room for God
which we're
into it.
right now, there's a very like purposeful bombardment going on. And, we had talked about that as, with chemicals, but alongside, AI is a part of that, and just the bombardment of information and it's like AI needs to be another tool
Mm.
in the toolbox, not something where yeah, that's a rabbit hole I don't necessarily want to go down. But this is the thing. It's pulling things back. It's pulling everything back. It's getting off social media. It's getting off your phone. It's understanding the resonance of your own nervous system enough in your field. If you're
Mm.
constantly in this low grade buzz, for me, it's coffee. Like that is it's such a dangerous space for me because it tips over from me waking up to like me just being like completely out of my own field and my own sensitivity. And
Mm.
what is interesting is I think the more sensitive you are, the more intuitive you are, the more, of a empath or a seer, the more you need to really cultivate and have boundaries around your own space in, understanding the deep set of what your nervous system is at like a real pure um I don't want to say pure, that's the wrong word to use, but like, what does your nervous system feel like when it's really in joy, really set in that place of deep relaxation, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. And I also feel like in alignment, like you said, it's important to have boundaries. I also feel like, as we're becoming more sensitive, it's also really important to ground ourselves
Mm,
and also remember that like we're here on earth, we're physical beings. And a lot of people just like to hate on earth,
I know.
you know?
No, they're like, I don't want to be here. It's part of the programming, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like the programming is like, you're not supposed to feel good. And that's a deep programming. Joy is actually like there's something wrong. And Earth is a hellscape.
Yeah, because they want to take the most powerful people that have actually woken up to their sensitivities
Yeah.
and disengage them from like actually doing anything to shift anything
Yes,
here.
exactly.
So, yeah. Yeah, so I think that like, you know, perspective and humor has become really important to me, in
Mm,
all of this because I feel like in alignment with the play. And I mean, sometimes like I have days where I just feel like I am so focused and I'm feeling so deeply devoted, that, it can feel like a burden to carry a
Yeah.
mission
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is important to not let yourself get stuck in the muck, like
Mm.
you have to keep moving, you have to leave room for joy. You have to, again, have the ability to like realize that you're not operating at your highest capacity right now because you're feeling a certain kind of way that's maybe negative or just
Mm.
not productive. And you have to, reset, go ground, like have some perspective, be able to like shake it off and do something that feels like completely ordinary or mundane or I don't know. Am I making sense? Like you
Yes.
you have to because it can be serious and it can be heavy, when you're trying to do something big.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to like give yourself a little bit of a break, because you're not the only one on your team,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And let yourself be held and let yourself
Mm. Mm.
receive.
Mm.
And that was something that I had to learn is that I felt like I had such a clear vision of what I wanted to do and what I wanted things to be like that I didn't really want to accept anybody else's help because nobody could do it like how I could do it.
Yes.
And if you're going to grow and serve more people, then like that's part of being a leader is to
Yeah.
figure out how you can do more sometimes with less.
Yeah.
And 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 part of that is realizing when you need to take a step back and recalibrate and you know just shift your energy a little bit, which sometimes feels like not productive, like I need to
Mm-hmm.
keep going. I need to get this thing
Yeah.
out. I have a plan and I'm excited
Yep.
about it. Why should I stop? But if you're
Right.
starting to feel you know, like you need a teal dodecahedron,
Right.
then you need to like take a step back and honor like that rest because that's going to allow you to serve people more. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like the moments that I've actually stopped and really not wanted to are the moments when I come back and I'm like three times as efficient. I have a 1-year-old daughter. My work
Yeah.
sessions are sometimes like very limited.
Yeah.
And, there's this like desire to get a lot of things done in a small amount of time. And, some days just don't call for that. And it's hard to not force myself to do that. But that is that scarcity mindset, that's
Yep.
fear creeping in.
Yep.
And like if I give into that, then even if I do sit in front of my computer for 2 hours, like it's not going to be very good work and I'm going to be miserable, which is going to affect the rest of my day. Whereas if I waited till like the next day, where I was
When you
feeling a
have
little
some
bit refreshed,
energy.
yeah, you'll get it done twice as fast. And
I do this
so,
all the time. Ugh, it's such a good thing to talk about. Like I'll push myself and then I'm just, and I've just sat and wasted 3 hours on the computer instead of,
yeah, and you don't like, as a creative person, it's
yeah.
really important. Like what you make is
Yeah.
actually not any
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
because,
exactly. I'm curious about two things. How did you get into the saints? And then talk about the importance of sigils. And they kind of go hand
okay.
in hand a little bit.
Yeah. Saints. Okay. So, I mean, it started really with the Isle of Iona,
And where is
um,
that?
Scotland,
That's what I thought.
western coast of Scotland. And I went in 2019 for the first time. And the monastery was, I mean, the island had a long, long history of spirituality. It was, it was definitely, it had a lot of Druid activity, it had a lot of pagan Pictish activity. And then that was there long before St. Columba landed there. It was like, I think sometime in the 6th century. And I mean, I've always been interested in miracles,
Mm-hmm.
and I I don't know really how to talk about it. It started with St. Columba and just kind of reading the story of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And, he performed a lot of miracles, and, they inspired people to live a holy life. But there's also kind of this like fierce, like spiritual warriorship around a lot of their activities, and kind of like a boldness and like a committed, like deeply, deeply committed devotion that I've always been drawn to. And so I started kind of looking into saints and different stories and miracles. And I kind of realized it's like, I mean, I didn't grow up Catholic or anything. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe, people who grew up Catholic where you're talking about saints regularly are more familiar with these things.
Yeah.
But they weren't stories that I had encountered in modern
Mm-hmm.
culture. And I can tell you why I think that is, but
Mm-hmm.
probably no. And so I just, like, the miracles are so beautiful, deep healing, counseling kings, and just transforming people's lives. And I think that the more that we read those kinds of stories, the more that we realize that they're still happening today and that they can
Mm-hmm.
still happen
Mm-hmm.
today. And so it's just kind of become a fun hobby to read. So it's called the hagiography. That just means like the
Mm-hmm.
life of a saint. Usually it's written by like a saint that was alive, or someone that was alive during their lifetime, during the saint's life. And so it will, tell you about the miracles and who they served, how many monasteries they built. And I just kind of, it was also beautiful, and full of love and devotion and deep, deep reverence. And that's something that, I'm always looking for ways that we can be more reverent in our lives. And they just
Mm-hmm.
seem like such good role models for me. And so now it's just become, fun and exciting to read their stories.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting growing up Catholic. I'm like, huh,
Did
because
you
I
grow up
have,
Catholic?
yeah, and I have a very different view of the church. I think, it's always two sides, and
Yeah.
focusing on there are these, individuals who are called into deep devotion,
Hmm.
and that's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think it's taking the lives and the inspiration, you know, and the medicine and the cultivation. And what I found interesting, like just you talking about the women, in the free guide, and I was like, man, you never hear about this. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you don't hear about female leaders and
Hmm. Women levitating during prayer.
yeah.
And, you know, I think too, what I was really drawn to when I read their stories was that they were so clearly guided
Mm-hmm.
and plugged into something way bigger than themselves. And they were letting that feed them. They were making room for that in their lives.
Yeah.
And look at, what they did as a result. And their
Mm.
stories are being told centuries later. And, just the legacy is so profound. And I'm interested in this concept of rewilding monotheism
Mm.
because I feel like there's such a beautiful devotion and focus and clarity that comes from just being in alignment with your mission. And I feel like when you're plugged into one source, it guides you differently. You have a different kind of confidence and clarity. And it just really makes sense to me, but I feel like, it's kind of a dirty word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And or it feels restrictive or it feels
Mm-hmm.
oppressive to most people because, you know, maybe they've grown up,
Yeah.
in a negative environment and
Well, yeah, well, for me, I like the idea of the rewilding because that brings in the feminine almost,
yeah.
because I'm always like, where is the feminine in this? And I'm not saying feminine as in female. I'm talking about, you know, the other polarity, you know? And you
Yeah.
do see these examples in these women, these saints.
There's like a wild, fertile dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like creativity for me is so much a part of that.
Yes.
And like the unstructured play that we've been talking about. And I feel like I don't know. It's something that I'm kind of still figuring out how to talk about.
Mm.
But I feel like there is a kind of devotion and reverence to be found in this like singular, wild place
Mm.
that we haven't really been exposed to this kind of just energy field, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe that's presumptuous to say, but at least I haven't felt it anywhere. And I feel like
I think this is where
you
people, oh, go ahead.
well you said um I was listening to you and Kathy Izzo and you said something like you were talking about how you were told that all you need to do is sing, like
Mm-hmm.
just keep singing.
Mm-hmm.
And you called it something like the power of like the singularity
Mm.
or the just the simple like you've just locked in
Yeah.
to that. And the thing that it's not just like the locking in, but it's the thing that you've locked into. It's not only the
Mm-hmm.
thing that brings you the greatest joy, but it's a creative act, which
Mm-hmm.
means that someone else is going to like encounter it.
Yes.
Like you're making and you're giving and you're sharing. And I feel like when we're locked into the origin point of like
Mm-hmm.
all of this creativity, it's like it can become explosive
Mm.
and it's like deeper and more mysterious and beautiful than like any of us can ever fathom. And I just feel like I have not encountered like I feel like I encountered this by myself in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's just one thing, but I haven't felt it anywhere elsewhere, but I would like to figure out how to talk about it more. Okay. So the sigils.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about the
Yeah, I
sigils?
want to talk about sigils
This is this is an
because it's such a
interesting
core foundation it's always been a core foundation of your marketing, your branding, your,
yeah, and how I've come to understand it has changed a
okay.
lot since like when I first started talking about it. I learned sigils in like a very traditional like Western magic context.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of that had to do with like, well, should we talk about what a sigil is? I
Yeah,
don't
let's
know.
talk about
Should we
what a sigil
start?
is first and foremost, because people might not know.
Okay, so sigils, at least the way I practice them, it's the creation of a personal symbol, usually abstract in nature, and its form is derived from letters that are pulled from an intention or a desired state of being. So like, you would say, um, maybe you're sigilling for a promotion at work or it's something. So you would write out an intention, and then there's like a whole process of kind of distilling it down and then abstracting the letters and creating, what ultimately is like a singular symbol. And then, you know, the way I learned it, which I haven't really taught this dimension of it, was that there is kind of a deployment of the sigil, and it has to do with the rulers of the hours. So, like different spirits that rule different days, different times, and
Oh.
kind of, getting them to help you.
Hmm.
And it is very effective, but I don't really want to teach it that way. I don't feel like that's mine to teach. And I feel like also people kind of like don't necessarily know what they're dealing with, and they might not want to deal with it. So I currently am thinking about because like I'm an image maker. I like images. They hold meaning, they focus me. The creation of the image in and of itself, or the sigil, as we're talking about here, takes the maker on, a whole revelatory journey in and of itself. I mean, I'm sure you know that sometimes even just figuring out what you want is its
Yeah.
own thing.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because I had this whole sigil workshop written. I had the slides made, and I realized that like something about the practice like didn't feel in alignment um with me anymore. And
Mm.
it was that element of it was the timing element, like the rulers of the days and the hours. And also we could talk about astrology here
Mm.
too. And I felt like, I'll just say it. I feel like astrology has always slowed me down.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of people are like, I work with people who sometimes they want to launch on a specific astrological day.
Mhm.
And I understand that. And I feel like in a lot of instances it's great and aligned, but I also see a lot of instances where it's an excuse to put something off.
Yep.
And I feel like to, these things are tools until they're not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really important. And so what I want to develop like further in this sigil practice, which really what I feel like I have my own unique contribution to this field, in that like I want to talk about more how to let the symbols reveal themselves to you.
Mm.
And so it's less of a personal will and more of a creative collaboration with the divine, like what we've
Mm.
been talking about.
Mhm.
So I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about like singular point of focus, mission oriented things, rather than feeling like you need to make contracts with certain spirits to carry things out for
Mm.
you, which is like traditionally, like most hardcore sigil casters like talk about it in this kind of field. And so that just
Can
kind
you
of,
can you give an example of what a spirit, I don't know if you can speak to that or like
yeah. So in like old Western magic grimoires, like there are different ones, Picatrix, Hygromantia. These are books of magic that have been written and found and are still in use today. And so a lot of them will have what is called a table of hours in them. And so what that and they're kind of, you see them change a little bit depending on like the region and the time and the culture that they were written in. But it's an angel or a demon that rules the day, rules the hour. And so what the grimoire or whoever, usually the grimoire is like, we call it a grimoire now, but it's like someone's journal, like a magician's journal that has been found. And so,
Interesting.
yeah. And so sometimes it's a deeply personal, like, table of spirits that have been revealed to them as helpers of certain kinds. Sometimes it's connected to, like, in Kabbalah, they talk about the Shemham Parash. I'm not going to say it right. Shemham Parash. It's like 72 angels.
Mm.
And like each one is a different facet of God.
Mm.
And so there's also like some debate as to, because some of the angels fell, and some
Mm-hmm.
people call those, bad influences, and other
Mm-hmm.
people say, oh, well, they're the ones that like actually revealed all of this information to us, and they're
Mm.
helpful. And so you see people talk about them in different kinds of ways. And so they've been assigned different days, different times. And so, like, let's say, if you were sigilling for a job or something, you you'd probably want to go on a Thursday, because Thursday is a Jupiter day, right?
Right. Right.
Expansion. And so then you would try to look up what time of the day, and you would look up what spirit ruled what hour, what their attributes were. And so when the sigils are all done and you take them into ceremony and cast them, for lack of a better term, you're invoking these
Mm.
spirits to help you. And
Wow.
so that always
Eh,
involves a contract.
Interesting. And what is casting? Is well, it used to be like metalworking, or what is that? Or is that just ceremony?
It's just ceremony, but I like that you said that, because casting in metallurgy is bringing something into form.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing in ceremony. We're precipitating something down, we're calling it into form. And so I yeah, I want to do it differently now.
Mm. Because of
So,
the
yeah,
contracts that bind.
yeah.
Yeah.
And people just don't know what they're dealing with.
Yeah, they don't know what they're getting
They
into.
they buy one of these things off of Amazon, and they just like
Mm.
repeat the words, and you have no
Okay.
idea. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so,
Yeah. You don't
and I mean,
understand what
like,
you're tying yourself to.
yeah, and like contracts can be broken. It's not a big deal, but
Yeah.
there's a better way to do
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
A way that involves more joy,
Mm.
and more creativity,
Mm.
and unconditional love and help, like you were talking about. And that's what I really feel called to talk about, is that dimension that's available to us,
Mm.
because yeah, you can get a lot of things done by making contracts, very effective, but it does not hold a candle to unconditional love.
Mm.
So,
This is why I love light language and light language grids so much, and writing someone a grid that maybe wants a
mhm,
job and giving them 144, shape grid or something, because it's neutral. There's a
yeah.
neutrality to it. I mean, really, there isn't, because what these shapes do is they go into the personal field and they kind of push out anything that's like with light, they're
Hmm.
pushing out the things that kind of like are holding someone back, but you're not, it's clean. You're not like tying yourself to any sort of like elemental or being on the planet that,
Yeah. And I feel like uh, there are so many practices that like we're drawn to them because like they just seem like old and rich and
hmm
mysterious
hmm
and beautiful for some way, but sometimes we really don't know what we're dealing with.
no,
And yeah, I think people should be careful.
I agree.
Um,
This is
And
where I have like a real issue with like people getting into witchcraft
yeah.
and those kind of things that don't come from a lineage or don't know what their lineage is, because they don't, unless you've studied and you've, come from a coven or a long line, it's like you don't know what you're doing,
No.
you know?
No. Yeah. And you don't know, like there's so much going on the planet that we can't see. And
Yes.
and like things that we do that we feel are harmless and have no consequences. And you just kind of open yourself up to like,
These forces.
yeah, it's like spiritual warfare.
It truly is.
And
One of my
and
teachers, oh, go ahead.
no, you go.
Oh, one of my initial teachers was a seer, like could
Hmm.
see the dimensional beings that were happening, taking place and coming in and out of rooms. And she was like, Janae, you don't want this gift. This
Yeah.
is not a gift that you want, because the things that you see that keep you up at night.
Yeah, but I mean, it's important to acknowledge that like there are also many things that are here to help us too, I
Exactly.
think, so
Exactly.
it's like I don't want to get all like
No,
freaky, but
no.
because like the things that are like fighting for good
Yeah,
far outweigh,
exactly.
what's bad.
Yeah,
And the power of unconditional love can just blast any of those things out. So it's like
exactly.
it's like a big deal, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure.
But I just think people should, like every decision that we make should be a conscious engagement with this unconditional love,
Mm,
and
mm,
if we can, because I find that like most people seem to be looking for some kind of power, maybe they wouldn't call it power,
mm-hmm,
maybe power to them is like not feeling anxious, maybe
mm-hmm.
power to them is not being stuck in a job that they feel like is draining them,
Or the power of feeling special, you
yeah.
know.
And you can find that in like everything that we've been talking about, in just like learning how to listen. And it's just like a greater and deeper and more joyful, it's just like a deep peace. And like when you have deep peace, you're not looking for power because you don't have things that you feel like need fixing.
And you don't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
It's
You
so
know?
interesting. The more that I heal and move into this space that you're talking about, the more I'm like, part of why I, wanted to be on stage was to like fill this hole that I thought was, but it was just feeding this thing,
Hmm.
and deep ego wound, you
Yeah.
know. And once I was able to go pull myself out of this and start to unwind and heal and get to know myself in this whole other way, the less I feel that I need to be, on stage or this or that. I mean, and I think there's a fine line between being in a leadership position and being a leader and feeling like you really have some medicine to bring to the world, which is why I started this podcast, versus like that need to be like constantly feeding that thing,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Feels good, doesn't it?
Mm. I love this conversation because I feel like I'm healing just speaking to you.
Mm.
You hold this powerful medicine and I feel it in my field. Like since the minute we got on, I'm getting this like almost like nutrients or nutrition in my field. And that is seeing people. And also whatever that medicine is that you're holding, it's giving other people permission to explore their own medicine and slow down. And I think there's just so many gifts that you hold and that you're going to be giving the world even more than what you're doing now. And I think you're really touching into it, like seeing your videos on Instagram in the last like couple months. I've just been like, oh, I can't wait until she puts out the next one, because it's medicine, so I'm always looking for whatever you're putting out. And this is like, it's huge. Like I'm touching into, I'm just like all these ideas of like what I'm learning from you. I'm like, oh my gosh, you could teach that, or you could, meaning you. I'm like, there's just no end to the gifts that you could give the world, So I think it's like this beautiful, you get to, of course, choose, but I think there's a really deep well of teaching that is going to help a lot of people.
Thanks, Janae.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot to do.
We need many lives.
I know.
And you're momming at the same time, and that's a whole other thing. But I just keep feeling like that your daughter is so lucky. So
I'm
lucky.
She's like, I mean, I know everybody says this about their kid, but it's like, yeah. And she's almost 2, and she's like, talking, like we can talk now. And it's just fun. It's fun.
I'm like, yeah, I can imagine that relationship is just pure magic. You have that childlike nature in you. So
yeah, she definitely helps me with that.
I love that. I am so grateful that you
Thank
took
you
the
so much
time.
for
I'm
inviting me
so happy that you took the time. I feel like we just scratched the surface. And
I know.
I always tell people, I'm like, you should come back on and but I definitely feel like we've got another podcast in us. And yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I really want people to realize how special they are. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but you really are. So like, give yourself some space and some playtime to connect to your gifts, and figure out like how you can best be of service, because once you figure that out, like that's your one way to have like the best life, the happiest life with the most joy.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Heartlight Sessions podcast is executive produced and hosted by me, Janae Halstead. It's edited, mixed, and mastered by me too. And that theme song you hear, it's called Heartlight. And yep, you guessed it, it's from my record Disposable Love. Got questions about a certain healing modality or about heart-centered healing? Or maybe you just need some advice on life, love, or creativity? Send it my way. Email me at letters@heartlightpodcast.com. Until next time, I'm Janae Halstead, and thanks for listening to Heartlight Sessions. Turning on my heart light, 1,000 volts of sunshine.